just enabling the adjuster to really do their job in the optimal way possible, really being superheroes. Most importantly, not only making great decisions, but also provide a really good service to the consumer, to the insurer. But all of those things come into play. It's not just about the efficiency level here. It's really the singular opportunity to turn your customer crisis moment to your customer loyalty moment. Hi, this is Oded Barak, the CEO and co-founder of 5 Sigma, and this is the future of insurance.
Oded, it's great to sit down with you, and you're one of the few people I've met in person before connecting with over Zoom. It seems completely backwards from the norm of human interactions these days, but thank you for making some time.
Thank you for making time for us for this tour of 5 Sigma.
And I should say, you just gave me a view of the Tel Aviv sunset, which may be the only actual view of the outside world I get today. But we probably should have been recording that for people to see, but it's beautiful. But thank you for taking time out of your evening for us. Can you, just for background, for people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about you and 5 Sigma? And then there's a number of things you and I have talked about before, and just catching up at Connected Claims the other day. I really want to pick your brain on a few things, but give us some background first.
So my personal background, born here in Israel, spent some years in the States as a kid, sabbaticals, and then 8 years in the military service, worked for the government for a bit, and then ended up doing my master's in the States, and ending up being an investment banker at Goldman. Moved from that time to head corp dev M&A strategy for a company called Amdocs here in Israel, but a global, in the telco carrier, OSS, PSS provider. Was a CFO in London. Far from tech, went to the energy commodity business, was a CFO of the holding company, ports, trains, and whatnot. And then moved back to Israel. And decided to take my fate in my own hand and actually go to this, through this phenomenal, excruciating experience of being an entrepreneur and founding a company, 5 Sigma. And so 5 Sigma, as you know, we are a true cloud native SaaS. I call it a true data-driven claims management platform for the property and casualty space. Quite wide range, a lot of business we cover, from, I call it from pet to jet, everything in personal line, on property, home and auto, obviously, and then commercial, general liability and workers' comps, as well as specialty lines like pets, like renter bikes, like cyber, and so on,
So I was going to ask you, when you were an investment banker, if you were covering or doing things in financial services or insurance, but how did you, from that background to insurance, is there a reason why, I mean, other than it just being the most attractive, exciting industry, that's how everyone talks about it, right? How did you end up focusing in on insurance and claims in particular?
That's a great question, Brian. So we, first of all, at Goldman, I was a TMT. So I was a technology, media, and telecom, not a financial services, but technology serves everything. And everyone, obviously, and from a transformational perspective, we, is when I actually had the CFO position in London at the time, in really large commercial, ports and trains and whatnot, in the billions of dollars, I was overseeing the insurance piece of this as well. And understood the massive amount of deficiencies that there's in the market. I would say then it occurred to me the level of what you called supply-demand gap that there is between what is needed and what is actually being out there to offer. When I returned back to Israel and met my 2 co-founders, Dror, my head of R&D, and our CTO, Michael, we kind of looked at the various markets, which has this efficiency, we'll call it the supply-demand gap, which with tech and data, you can actually bridge that gap. We wanted an area that has huge amount of data and a massive amount of improvement that you can actually close, as well as touching each one of us as consumers. So we looked at various markets, and we ended up looking at eventually at insurance. And within insurance, we actually went to tackle what you call the least, at the time at least, what everybody kind of stayed away of. This is like the orphaned child of insurance, right? Everybody went to distribution, risk and customer engagement.
Yeah.
Claim was something, and even if you look at the time, the overall, call it investment pie from a VC perspective, only 6 to maybe 8% of the entire investment pie was towards claims. All the rest was really, as I said, the distributions. And obviously we thought there's a great opportunity. And as you said at the beginning, this is probably one of the most sexiest domain that are out there, right?
Yeah. So when was this that you were setting up Five Sigma?
So we started at 2018, basically, mid 17. Yeah, and then around 4.5 years of actually building this stack, understanding, learning very carefully the deficiencies, understanding how do we want to approach it, what is there, what's the 80-20 rule, right? What do you actually want to achieve? What the market is looking for? Why now? All those questions that, when you run and actually build, and we know a lot of startups, it's a well-known saying in Israel that many startups actually sell what they build versus building what they can sell. So what is the value or the benefits that the market is actually seeking for to close this gap? And so we formed Five Sigma.
So it was like that timing. The reason I was asking is there had been this wave of investment in claim systems, but it was probably a decade before that, or maybe 8 years on the short end. And then, like, having been a chief claims officer in that time period, it did feel like suddenly it was like, you got your new system, leave us alone, you're not getting more. And we really did fall off. And it wasn't until quite recently, because you couldn't handle claims in lockdowns without new tools, that suddenly people sort of got religion again. It's like, oh, claims matters. And I know, like, we were just at Connected Claims, this was the theme, is everyone felt like we've been neglected forever and this is our chance to re-engage. What are some of the things that, as you've been observing and as you've been building tools that the market needs and not selling what you built, what are some of the things that you see chief claims officers and organizations focusing on today that, from an interest standpoint, it's like there's excitement here, there's opportunity?
So I think there's when you think about the evolution of claim platform versus just point solution within the claims lifecycle, most investment at the time were really kind of a point solution around the claims lifecycle, not the platform as a whole, right? And you had the market actually going through, call it a digitization process with the Guidewire and Creeks of the world coming in. But something happened throughout this period of time when you looked at the numbers and you actually see that, the loss adjusting expense level didn't actually change for more than a decade. Doesn't matter if you digitize or not.
Yeah.
And, the nothing really kind of moved the needle, and you ask yourself why, and especially in times when, combined ratio, and we're coming to this point again this year, when combined ratio is surpassing 100 points. And so, profitability is going down. Everybody's very sensitive. And I think people start understanding there is an issue. I mean, it's not only about digitizing your platforms. And I think what we discovered, and we looked at what companies are doing, is that they managed everything, and the tools or the technologies they had in hand was really about managing adjusters to compliance rather than enabling them to become really superheroes, excelling what they do.
Yeah.
And hence now you have additional tools to manage adjuster to compliance. They're now finding themselves working more for the system than having a system working for them. The same, by the way, concept was held true for data. All claims data, and think about the huge amount of knowledge that you have embedded in the claims data that you collect. But again, the entire claims data was in purpose for compliance and regulatory reasons, and not for optimization and data science. So you have zero leverage of the benefits you can actually have from this data and from new technologies. And so I think companies start understanding this. The second piece that happened, and as you can imagine, the transformation in the market around consumer expectation and behavior across different sectors. Right now, actually, distribution MGAs came in promising exactly, user-friendly, simplicity, and speed.
Yeah.
Now, guess what happened in the back end? Still clunky system, or potentially TPAs. They didn't keep that consistency. But consumer behavior starting, fueling market understanding. It's not longer about customer acquisition, but retention. How do we actually battle that? So both financial and customer. And then you have another channel, or I would call it a vector that happened, which is the change of business models, usage-based insurance, prevention versus reaction, or minimization of the, of the damage. And IoT come into place, telematics come into place, data intelligence, whatnot. And so all of a sudden you need to cater your business model. You need to have claims adjusted to and being able to support this. And so we believe that part of not only creating a very, very smart claims management platform and simplify the process, making way more intuitive, having a system working for the adjuster, number one. Number two, enabling managers and chief claims officers to see what's happening in real time under the hood in order to optimize, right? Getting visibility to this, to the entire process. And then on the macro level, by the way, collecting the data, claims data, understanding patterns that are actually emerging from the data almost in real time to actually funnel it strategically into the underwriting elements or risk of companies. And lastly, the ability to actually have a platform that helps you, tools that helps you in the grand scheme of things to really innovate much faster, the company as a whole. So we thought it actually touches multi, constituents within the world, within the company. And that's what we built, basically.
Well, look, I know a lot of those things are sort of the hallmarks of claims modernization, that, one of the buzzwords that people are talking about. I said this at Connected Claims a few times, where it's like all the things we've been talking about on these stages and presentations people are giving, there's very little that anyone is like, wow, I've never heard that before. It's a lot of the same tools and themes that we've been talking about for a few years, yet we're still struggling to get them in. We're still struggling to see the benefit of it. Or, we thought we would solve LAE problems and we haven't. The loss adjusting expense is the same or maybe even higher in some cases. Why is claims modernization, the conversation itself isn't even modern anymore? Like it's based on historical themes. Why is this such a struggle still?
First it was, I think I told you, it's 4.5 years ago, I went to this claim conference in Prague.
Right. Yeah.
And there was in one of the first talks, the speaker came and divided the board into two parts. And one on the left side, he put the word risk, and the right side, he put the word opportunity. And he said, I'm going to throw some phrases and tell me where to put it. And it was amazing that the word technology went into the risk factor and not into the opportunity one. That was 4.5 years ago. Fast forward, we hear even in last week's conference, folks talking about the world of technology or automation as potentially driving some disaster into the market, right? We had Terminator pictures on the board, and I thought to myself, as much as the talk about modernization and, again, digital transformation is very old, this game, but even, the discussion about deep technologies like machine learning, AI, data modeling and whatnot, in a range of things. Yet the industry and many players in the industry are still moving very, very slow, or having some issues to accept the fact that there is potentially what I call free lunch, meaning low risk, right, and high reward. So you can actually minimize the risk with automation and technology, dramatically reduce errors, but really have an amazing effectiveness and so on. But I think, so this actually, there's two parts to your question. One is, what about claim modernization is an issue? And I think claim by nature is such a different entity or what I call a function between different line of business, obviously, but even within the same line of business. So take physical damage in auto insurance, for example, and PIP or BI.
Yeah,
they're completely different claims. Obviously, taking between homes, different coverages within home, or cyber to pet to workers' comps. So to create a really SaaS or productizing in a standard way, a product around multiple line of business, it's something which is very, very, very difficult to do, and model the data in a way it's very difficult to do. And so what happens, Now you've got companies really saying, I want each thing according to how I see the world. And you got Guidewire providing solution, but then you have a multi-billion SI industry becoming, building itself, and then, but implementation that never ends. So for me, the ability to standardize and create a real SaaS product is a monumentally tough things to do. And that's on a product level. On the organizational level, as I said, there's some resistance. Change management is one of the toughest things to do in every organization. And so you have to actually understand that those two elements holds back a little bit, or create this kind of a weight or drag into the modernization process of companies.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, as you talk about, the different products, and I mean, if you cover the full spectrum of possibilities in P&C, the product structure, the claim structure, the data models behind them are wildly different. But then you were talking before about this wealth of new tools and IoT, telematics, third-party data sources, AI, like all these things coming in. We don't even know what the data will look like or what will be relevant for any one product or coverage within a product, but then expand that out to the full suite. And there's so much possibility. I mean, I'm thinking that that's also for a traditional mindset on how we structure things, where every data field is spelled out and the workflow is exact. It's almost like either I shun all of that stuff, and so I'll never adopt it because it's always too amorphous for me to bring in, or it's so scary I don't know where to start, and so I stay where I'm at right now. I feel like that's another holdback. Is that, do you think chief claims officers are dealing with that sort of feeling right now? What do you think they're struggling with?
I think there is a fear of understanding, the spaghetti, what you call, of data, right? How do you actually unlock the value? And I think it's a great point of, and even if you want a new system or any new solution, right? You have to ask yourself to begin with, what is the objective? What is the business case for each one of those pieces I'm bringing in? What are the pain points I'm trying to solve? What is my KPI? And then how do I measure that? And that will actually help you understand, I want to gather data for what purpose.
Yeah.
So you can have one, I just want to know what's happening under the hood, right? So then I can optimize and see the weak links that I have in my operations. I want to always go to let's, for example, the adjuster that are excelling in what they do, detect deficiencies. And there's, other KPIs or other things your objective is detecting emerging patterns in our portfolio. From my perspective, one of the things that we do, which I think we do very well, and it's part of even educating chief claim officer in a way. And again, we have within the company people with tens of years of claims experience, right? Adjusters and chief claim officers that, that really brings the depth of understanding. What would a chief claim officer want to know?
Yeah.
How do we help them do their job better, understand the operation better? So for example, since every single piece of the claims journey is in one place, from communication, FNOL, all sort of communication, everything is captured, all the way to subrogation, everything is in litigation. What we actually do is collect the data and measure every single piece of it. And now the system can provide you automatically with any query you want to understand. How long does it take from FNOL to first respond or to vendor engagement, responses and whatnot, on every single level, the way you want to slice and dice it. So on a geographical, on a line of business, on the adjuster level, you name it. Now you can start seeing automatically what's happening.
Yeah.
Being able to measure it and score it, by the way, objectively, because the system is just providing you with the data, and it's not a human intervention. And now you can start making some better decisions. So that's one element. How do I actually always optimize my operation? And I got to tell you that many times, we provide this level of data. For example, what feature do you use to actually enhance the efficiency? You have growth in volume, but you don't need to grow as much as the adjusters. It's not linearic anymore. Now you can start understanding usability, adoption, and contribution. Causality, for example, how much an error in assigning the claim to the wrong adjuster can impact both your LAE and and coverage and indemnity payment and decision making. So one of the things we love about what we do is the fact that it's not only about one thing that will change the world. It's really many, many different points that create this line, right? In the outcome of the claim.
I love that phrase because it gets us out of the minutia that inherently we get stuck in. And when you said, earlier, I think any adjusters who are listening, when you talked about we're sort of working for compliance and the system is like they're probably feeling that every day. One of the things that's been going on is this talk of, and you said it before, the move to sort of prediction and prevention instead of just reacting after the fact, whether that's to minimize the loss or to stop it completely. Having some conversations with some folks, it's not that they're afraid of their jobs going away per se, but they are asking, well, where does claims exist in a world where we don't have as many claims? Some people say we'll never have claims again. I don't think that's possible. Even with the safest of safe cars, there's still patches of ice. There's still, drunk drive, like whatever it is. I mean, I guess if the car is autonomous, drunk driving doesn't matter. But there's still a tree can fall. Things will happen. So we'll still have claims. But how are you thinking about sort of thinking beyond claims and where claims can still innovate beyond the four walls of the department?
So first of all, I think, as you said, the world of 0 to 5 autonomous levels and autonomous vehicles is keep on moving, right? It's not going to be next.
We're always at level 2. It seems never get beyond that.
Exactly. It's like the horizon kind of movement. You're still going to have more and more autonomous vehicle and more functionals that are autonomous, but you're still going to have other drivers. Like again, millennials are the insured of today, but you still have people at the time of crisis, they need to speak to someone.
Yeah.
So it's a psychological issue. You call it some generational issue as well. But for, a time of trouble, and it's very subjective, what level of severity it becomes, I need someone to help me. I think you always need, in a discussion, are adjusters going away. We always talk about not necessarily adjusters going away, but just enabling the adjuster to really do their job in the optimal way possible, really being superheroes, so make much better decisions and they're being able to process more maybe. And most importantly, not only making great decisions, but also provide a really good service to the consumer, to the insured. So all of those things come into play. It's not just about, as you said, not just the efficiency level here. So I think, we talk about insurance, claim insurance beyond claim. Claim, I always, it has several things. One, it's really the singular opportunity to turn your customer crisis moment to your customer loyalty one. And I think that's a key point to remember. This is the moment of truth, and you deliver what you promised them at the time they needed the most. And many really miss on this opportunity.
Yeah.
The second piece to it is obviously the fact that it's, around 70%-ish of your overall expense, out of combined ratio. It's really the majority of your capital expense when it comes to operation. And the one that, especially in times where margins are contracting tremendously, profitability is squeezed, companies are bleeding, this is something you can really take care of.
Yeah.
And I think understanding what's happening under the hood is a prerequisite to be able to optimize. And then the third piece is really, as I said, the ability to innovate faster and better within the overall company. Claim is claim, but the claim system has touch points to other pieces of the puzzle, and everything is connected.
Yeah.
The ability to underwrite and price better, then the ability to close the loop with, the other side of the equation of the loss ratio is really how the claims output is. And gaining understanding, a deep and wide understanding of the world in what is your business. So, if you think about the adjusters see the world, I would say, in a very deep way. So they can see a claim and kind of many years of experience, know where it's actually heading.
Yeah.
Underwriters see the world in a shallow way, but very wide one.
Yeah.
So they have the width, shallow, the adjuster have deep, but narrow. And you don't have one system that actually provide you with a full scope of both depth and breadth of what's actually happening in the world and being able to start understanding and optimizing your entire business in a different way. React very quickly to trends and so on. So I think that's part of the philosophy of creating a really true, well-connected claims management.
It does strike me that I imagine you feel this way too. There was just a recurring theme in the conference we're at around like people feeling very hopeful right now, as much as there's doom and gloom economically, financially, and politically. From a claim standpoint, that it actually is this really interesting moment of possibility. And that's the sense I'm getting from you. It's like we have a chance to enable quite a shift or pivot for claims, to not ever be back in that kind of relegated corner of the organization, but to be more ingrained in, providing that extreme depth where it's needed for better decision making and sort of facilitating a change going forward.
Yeah, I agree. This is, the conferences are really kind of, an optimistic. Everybody come to show their goods, and vision, and in every conference, in every sector, people will show you the slides of what they're going to be in 3 years.
Right.
And I think that's promising. And then 3 years later, you're still with the same slides or a bit more.
Yeah.
Still same optimism. I think the market is moving, obviously towards the right direction, and everybody's understanding, again, driven and fueled by consumer expectation and different business models and across industries. Insurance now is kind of woken up a few years ago. And I think for me, what is really happening is the symbiosis between domain experts in the insurance side and claim side and true experts in technology, and that fusing those together and symbiotically create really monumental opportunities. I do believe, everybody talks about you don't need people anymore, machine will take over. I think you call AI, but you call the intelligence augmentation, the IA as well piece works into place to actually take it to the next level.
Yeah.
We can talk about the level of automation of what we do and so for hours, but I think, this connection between the two, I always tell, I would say insurance veterans and claims veterans, they are so essential and such an asset to any insurtech company. If they think they're a dinosaur and, what do I have to do with the tech world? No, on the contrary, technology need this kind of domain expertise, as I said, to be able to understand what is the right business case we do solve for.
Yeah. Oded, I want to end with a question for you. Is if you went back to that event in Prague and they drew that line the same way, where do you think the audience would put technology, opportunity or risk today?
If I go to the same folks today?
Yeah. Do you think that their thinking has moved, or do you think they're still seeing it? Because you just talked about it as opportunity, but obviously you would talk about it that way. Where do you think a group full of industry people would place it today?
So I think it's obviously very subjective. And by the way, I think it's you got it a biased, a group bias. It depends on the culture of a company.
Sure.
And the culture of a company are going to determine how do we actually look at technology. Are we seeking change? Are we seeking to optimize? That will actually bring the. But again, you in this, even in this conference last week, we had people looking at the automation as, high risk and questionable reward. And what I'm saying, as you said, I'm saying this is actually reducing risk and increasing reward. There is what I call the free lunch. Even we talked about the fact that you can create this equilibrium between indemnity payment, LA, and customer experience, finding the right balance and keeping that intact. So, but I think slowly but surely, there is a trend forward. Companies are seeing the benefits of technologies, seeing the benefits of automation, but they need to plan really carefully. What is the use case they need to solve for? What are the KPIs and how to measure them?
Yeah. I think maybe that's a challenge we can end to the audience with is where would you place technology, and then ask yourself why, either side that it's on. And maybe it's a question of how you're engaging with it and how you're framing it. or how you're framing your own business and whether you're trying to achieve something or you're protecting where you've been. I like pushing people to be like, well, think in your own context, where are you at? And so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see it in a whole conference, but I think your point is very valid. It's super situational. So we all need to sort of ask ourselves that and ask, is that really the right answer?
Yep. I agree with you 100%.
All right, well, we'll get the audience on to give an answer. But Oded, I really do appreciate the time with you and giving us some things to think about, because this could be an interesting opportunity for the industry if we're willing to engage with it. And I mean, you talked exactly about the ways to start to think about it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Bryan.
Thank you to Oded for sitting down, and to the whole team at 5 Sigma for giving him up for a bit. It's great to get his perspective on things. He and I met in April of 2022. It was one of my first, if not my first time back in person, and just really clicked about, kind of like his understanding of what chief claims officers are facing, what they're struggling with. And so I was really excited to finally get him to sit down and share some of that thinking. And I think he's spot on. There's so much about the mindset around looking at technology, digitization, new tools, new approaches to things as a risk, instead of looking at them as an opportunity. And that's what they are. It doesn't mean it's not scary. It doesn't mean change doesn't feel hard, or maybe we've struggled in the past, but what if we went at it from the point of view of opportunity? What could we unlock? And I do think it allows claims professionals to, yes, solve claims specific needs and issues, but to be a part of the bigger picture that we all face as an industry. And I think having been in the seat of the CCO, to feel like you're off in a corner instead of part of kind of what's going on more broadly and helping move the carrier forward, especially as we start to look at risk mitigation and engaging more proactively, I think that's a really exciting time for chief claims officers to engage. And so thinking about the tools and the approaches and the mindset, it's absolutely the right time to be doing that. So thank you very much to Oded for kind of bringing that to the forefront and for spending some time with all of us. I hope that that gave you all something to consider, to take back, to think about, and question kind of, what are you doing? How are you looking at things in your own context? And if you did do all that, tell someone else about it. Tell them about the show, share it. You can subscribe and like and leave a review, of course, yourself. But I always say the best thing you can do is tell someone that you value, that you respect, or that you're trying to bring up in this industry. Tell them about the show and let them engage in content that helps push us all forward. So with that, I will say thank you, and I will see you back here next time.